to make a Bloody Mary mix, how come you can never just say, hey, that's my favorite Bloody Mary mix, and you can pour it into a cup with vodka and get the fuck down? That never happens, ever. You have to add salt, pepper, maybe some garlic salt in there. You got to add Worcestershire sauce. You might have to add some Tabasco. There's so much additives. Like, before you know it, you're like doctoring up your fucking soup to have some grilled cheese to dip in. I don't understand why no one can get this shit right. And I think that me and you can. I think that we can come up with a viable product for Bloody Mary that is a set it and forget it. You open it, you pour it, you drink it. We've already done the heavy lifting.
I'm willing to go down that road with you, but I have a theory, Bob. The theory is that subconsciously there can't be a perfect Bloody Mary mix because the making of the Bloody Mary is ritualistic. I think even if we had the perfect mix, people would like think they need to add stuff to it because that's part of the process. So I don't, you know what I mean? Like, literally, you could say, hey, this is it. It's got everything in it. It's totally legit. But if you just like dump a mix into some vodka, are you really done making a Bloody Mary?
There may be something to that. And honestly, if I poured a Bloody Mary and I saw some cracked black pepper floating in it when I was done, I'd be like, wait a minute, let's give this sucker a chance. Anyway, I'm Bob West. I'm here with the illustrious and happy Scott Casanova. His Commanders locked down the Green Bay Packers today and their aging veteran QB and walked out of there with a win at home. And I'm really happy for it because fuck Green Bay. Anyway,
tell us how you really feel, Bobby. I'll tell you what.
This is the stiff truth.
I'll tell you what, man. I am pleased as punch. I do have a little pep in my step after that win. And, you know, I went into today, rightfully so, like, it's going to be a heartbreak. I think Heineke's going to come out. He's going to play well. And it's the Green Bay Packers. They've lost 2 in a row. The first time they've lost 2 in a row since Matt LaFleur has been the coach. And the first time I think they've lost 2 in a row since 1999 or some crazy shit like that. So not really the MO of Aaron Rodgers to skid for 3 games in a row. So everything was stacked up against us. But I'll tell you, bro, we've talked about it before. I don't know how much we've talked about it on the show, but fuck Carson Wentz. That's all I got to say about this. You know what I mean?
Well, and not in the same sense as fuck Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, but in the sense that he's just not a starting quarterback. He's just not. I don't know what happened to him. I think his ego got hit a little bit after his injury, and he never came back the same. And and I just wouldn't want him on my team. And if someone does have him on their team, I think they're going to have to start over with him. Come out with a running attack, treat him like Ben Roethlisberger early in his career. Don't let him throw more than 20 times. Use good defense and a good rushing game to a good running game to ease him back into the offense. And maybe you could rebuild this guy's confidence because the skill set looks to be there, but the confidence is shot. That dude is just, it's kind of hapless. It's kind of like, him all the time is kind of like, what's his name for the Vikings? Why am I brain farting this?
Oh, that used to play for the Skins.
Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. It's kind of like him in prime time, like playing night ball. Yeah, it's just terrible. Like, he'll throw it up and just hope someone catches it. Like, seriously. Yeah, like, off his back foot, he just throws it towards the light and just hopes for the best. That's kind of Carson Wentz lately. And so not necessarily fuck him like he's a bad dude.
Exactly.
But like Aaron Rodgers, I'm right on board with like fuck Aaron Rodgers. I don't really have a whole lot of respect for him as a person. I don't really have a whole lot of respect for him as a quarterback. And I'm glad he's finally getting a taste of defeat. And it serves you right, buddy, when you always opt for the money and you leave your teammates out to dry. This is what you get.
I like how you
welcome.
I like how you spoke directly to Mr. Rodgers as well. You're like, hey, fuck up.
Pal,
look at me.
Listen,
at me.
right here. Look at me, bro. Look at me,
Rodgers. My eyes are up here, buddy. But I'll tell you what. No, fantastic game. I'll tell you before we get into the show because we got some good conversation today. Couple of big upsets. I think the Packers Commanders game was a hell of an upset there with the Commanders winning. So
100%. Yeah.
kudos there. And then the other real big one that it both got me and you salivating with just glee is the Buccaneers losing big time, not a nail biter to the Carolina Panthers, 21-3. 21-3, Mr. Tom Brady.
Right after they traded away their entire offense, mind you.
I know, seriously. And that's something, as we're in spooky season right now. How about that scary reimagined San Francisco 49ers offense? Dude, I'll tell you what.
They're playing right now, and it's a little distracting, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know.
Because I want to see. I want to check it out. I want to look at my phone.
Well, I'll tell you what. My next statement here may not age well, or it may age very well, but I hope they really take it to the Kansas City Chiefs and stomp them in the ground today. We'll see. Is that game in Arrowhead? Is it at Arrowhead, or is it in
let's see.
Is it in California?
I've got Kelsey, so let me see. It's in San Francisco. And San Francisco is up 10-7, 15 minutes in the second. So the second quarter is just about to start.
Well, let's go Niners.
A live update for you.
Let's go Niners, baby. But I'll tell you that I think everybody already knows, but the stiff drink today is a classic. There it is. And Bob is enjoying.
Let me get the prettier one.
There it is. There it is. Bloody Marys, baby, for spooky season and some bloody buddies. I mean, you can't go wrong with this drink. And I guess I don't want to make assumptions that everybody knows how to make a Bloody Mary. So I'm just going to go ahead and offer it up here. It's vodka and Bloody Mary mix. Call it what it is. Vodka and tomato juice, and then lots of different spices and like sauces and whatnot. Right? I mean, it's
a beautiful drink, Scott, because you can take it every which way you want. You can sweeten up your Bloody Mary if that's what floats your boat. I'm a spicy guy, so I like a savory Bloody Mary. I like it salty and it's spicy.
Just like his anal sex. I'll tell you what.
That's right. That's exactly right. I like it a little bit stiff so that it kind of hurts to take, but after a couple, you're good to go in the next one.
Oh my. Whew. It's getting hot in here, isn't it? No, but these are fantastic. And I think we kind of talked through this already, but I really love to add some tasty edible additives to my Bloody Mary as well. I'm a huge fan. Look at this. Check out this celery stalk. That's nice, right? And then a nice pickle in there. Did you add any green olives? Anything like that? Banana peppers?
No. I just went classic celery stalk. I thought about it. I've got some great olive selections. I've got some gherkins. I've got all kinds of things I could have added to it, but I just wanted to go with the classic celery. And man, I gotta say, I did try the Tabasco Bloody Mary mix, the extra spicy one. And obviously I added a little bit more stuff to it, but I did not add any extra spice to it other than pepper. Salt, pepper, and Worcestershire sauce is all I did to mine. And of course, about a shot and a half of vodka in a pint glass.
That sounds pretty good. Yeah, I did the same. I did 2 ounces of vodka in each of my Bloody Marys.
Yeah, not quite a double, because then it's like a little too tough, at least if there's ice in there. There's not enough to dilute it down a little bit. Then you're like breathing fire through your Bloody Mary from alcohol, and that's not all that cool. But I gotta say, I love a good Bloody Mary. Always have. It's always been one of my favorites. This goes back to my parents. I mean, they loved Bloody Marys, and I remember them having them kind of like we drink mimosas on Sunday mornings. They like their Bloody Marys, and perfectly okay. I'm not one to judge. I think it's perfectly acceptable to have a Bloody Mary before noon. If you're wanting a morning Mary, I'm okay. I'm on board with that.
It's interesting too, because I would say this is the marquee one of 2 AM cocktails out there, right? I mean, I think mimosas is the other one here. I've been known on rare occasions when I have both a little bit of the munchies and the drinkies is what I'll go ahead and call that when I want to drink late evening, where I go ahead and mix myself up a PM Bloody Mary. And that's quite satisfying too. Not something I normally do, and something that can raise an eyebrow or two if you're ordering a Bloody Mary at midnight or 1 a.m. or something like that. That's borderline psychopathic shit. You know what I mean? You got to watch people like that. But yet, here we are. So
it's right up there with a black coffee.
Yeah.
You're not gonna put any cream or anything in your coffee? Okay, you fucking psycho.
I agree with you 100%. That is suspect, or as the kids
I
these
only
days.
drink my coffee if it's fucking terrible. That's it. I don't want a good tasting coffee. If I'm gonna drink it, I want it to be terrible, but I'm gonna pretend like I like it with a straight face. So everyone wonders what's going on upstairs.
Yes, it's the same kind of people that love the taste of IPAs. You know what I mean? Same
Yes.
thing. You're like, yeah.
Hey, look, that
guy.
IPA, is it good?
It's awesome.
Yeah, this shit's good. You're like, why are you making that weird face then? Why are you literally chewing while you drink it? It's liquid. It's because it tastes like there's like plants and hops in there, right? that's what it is. Well, I agree, dude. I'm not a fan. In fact, we just me and Jess have been trying to take a little bit of more time with ourselves lately. And by that I mean, hold on, let me shut this door.
Okay. Is that why you were in the bathroom for 45 minutes this morning?
No, I keep looking over at the door thinking, man, I can't believe I forgot to shut that. I should really shut that. Anyway,
now that we're alone.
now that it's just us and the girls. So Jess and I have been like wanting to take more time to ourselves. You know, we've been married 6 years, you know, we just want to take more time to ourselves. Our kids are getting older. So every other Friday I have off, right? So we've been sneaking over to Turtle Mountain Brewery, which is a local Rio Rancho place that they just opened a second location that's literally like 2 blocks away from my house.
Spitting distance.
It's fucking awesome. I could throw a rock and hit this brewery.
Nice.
It's fucking awesome. So we've been sneaking over there around 11 or noon while the kids are at school, and we've been having I'd say pints, but we get the 20 ounces. Like
you got to go hard.
Yeah, we do. We get in there, and I've been trying new beers and the food, and we've been taking the time to ourselves. So I've been like trying these different beers. And I won't touch an IPA because I'm trying to enjoy the beers and enjoy my time, right? Exactly. But I find myself I love a good white. I just love a good white, man. Give me even Shock Top. Shock Top is like the Budweiser of white beers, but you go get you a Shock Top at the very least. But I've been getting down on the whites. I've been getting down on the Hefeweizens. I've been getting down on the Pilsners over there. And every time I go over there, I keep seeing the cider, and I'm like, well, cider, I should probably drink because it tastes good, but I'm not gonna, because I'm gonna have a beer because I want to be manly.
Yeah, save your gayness for behind closed doors, right?
That's right. That's like, can you bring me a cider? It's just like, this is fantastic.
Well, let me ask you this here, because I'm also a fan of the white ales. Have you had it's a local Colorado one. I know they're nationwide though. Have you had an Avery White Rascal by chance?
I have not.
Get yourself some White Rascals, dude. They are Avery is the brewery. I want to say it's probably like 5.4%. So right there in the sweet spot, you know, not a punk bitch beer, but not overly high alcohol content either. Kind of right there in the
I've put it on the show notes. So sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. They're fabulous here. I'm also a huge fan of the like the Belgian whites too. Similar to your Shock Tops and whatnot and Blue Moons. Those are nice. They're just easy drinking beers, man. I'm not huge on throwing the slice of orange in there. I mean, I'll do it if it's there and they like throw it in there. I won't pull it out. It's fine, but I'm not going to go search for that. You know what I mean? The only fruit that I add to my beer is typically my finger when I'm stirring it. You know what I mean? That's the only fruit.
Well, and you know, I agree with you. I could give or take the slice of orange. I'm not going to not tip the bartender as well if there's no orange on my white. You know, it's fine. But it's really one of my favorite beers. They did have a bitters over there.
Oh, nice.
It was just like a temporary thing. It's gone now, but that was nice to have a nice bitters. Also one of my faves. You know, it's like drinking a Pilsner, but like fresh and with more sustenance. There's just something about the bitter that gives you that thickness and that kind of almost creamy kind of a taste with the bitters versus I guess it's the nitrogen, right?
Yeah. Speaking of which, I haven't found a Boddington's in the stores for quite some time now. It's very disconcerting. I don't know what's going on there.
do we need to like find a road trip destination?
We might.
Let's take laptops and our mics and just go to a pub that has Boddingtons and just do our show from there as we just get tanked on Boddingtons. That sounds fun.
That sounds real fun, actually. I like that. That's yeah. I don't know what happened to it, but I used to get those 4-packs all the time. I haven't spotted one in a while.
I haven't
And you
seen
think,
one.
yeah, you think if you think if it'd be anywhere, it'd be over at Total Wine, but it's not. So maybe they should change their name to Total Alcohol or something like
Well,
that. Total Booze.
Well, to be fair, it's not wine.
It's true. It's not really the. It's
They're
obviously
not total beer.
yeah, that's true. I guess they could always come back with that one. Yeah, we don't specialize in beer. We just kind of it's our side piece. You know what I mean? So there is that. Well, I'll tell you what. Enjoy the Bloody Buddy. I'm gonna just go ahead and probably finish this first one off.
Yeah, no, I knew I was gonna get right into it, so I went ahead and made two. Of course, I mean I normally make two, but I love Bloody Marys. Like they're dangerous in the sense that I'll chug a Bloody Mary. And there's a few drinks that are like that for me that are kind of dangerous for me because I'll drink it. And it's honestly most of the pineapple mixers that we have with pineapple, almost all of those I'll just chug because I've always been that way that I don't normally just kind of sip anything at all. I've always been a chugger. So like when I was a kid and I'd have like milk with my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I would just like eat half the peanut butter and jelly sandwich so I couldn't take it anymore. And then I would chug a whole pint of milk, like a whole damn cup full of milk. And then I'd get back to the sandwich. You know what I mean? I've been weird like that. I'm always a chugger when I drink. I have zero moderation, probably the ADHD.
Zero moderation. Not in fear of alcoholism at all there. This is definitely not going to be an issue with you. But
no, that's not going to be a problem, right? The fact that I don't sip on anything, I just chug everything that I put in my hand. I don't know.
Yeah, I do the same thing, though, in the sense that I didn't have any beers yesterday. I'm trying to cut beer out for a little while. Just going straight booze. But it's hard for me to regulate, because I sip my cocktails like I drink beer, which is pretty fast. So, yeah.
Well, and it's nice to have a nice stiff cocktail. I mean, you could moderate that by pouring like half shot cocktails, but that sucks.
No, that's lame. We're not going to do that. I'll tell you that right now. But again, cheers to you. I just threw my second pickle spear in this bad boy. There's 2 pickles in here, 2 pickles and a celery stick.
Well, I gotta say, this Tabasco brand Bloody Mary mix has really been working. I'm really enjoying it. Definitely head and shoulders above Mrs. T. So that's a pretty low bar.
Yeah, that's a pretty low bar. I'll tell you what, man, speaking of, in my mind, kind of low bars here, this recent suspected serial killer that was apprehended and now in custody in Stockton, California. Did you see that in the news?
I did after you sent me the link.
Good. I'm glad. Did you get a chance to vidi and preview that nice little article there?
I absolutely did. I read it front to back. I did my homework for you.
And I jest a little bit here in the sense of a low bar, but in my mind, with the history of like modern day infamous serial killers that we've had, somebody that simply just goes around and shooting people to death is not very highly creative. Very effective. Don't get me wrong. It
doesn't make for good film.
Yeah, it doesn't. And that's what I'm saying. There's not a lot of drama that they can add to that and make it a more kind of infamous epic story, so to speak. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, has there been anybody that just uses a gun and shoots people?
Well,
I think
Bundy, right?
Well, he used a gun, but he would rape and kill his victims and then like have sex with the dead bodies and stuff like that.
Who was the dude in New York that just shot him in the car?
Son of Sam.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say too. So David Berkowitz is his name, his real name. But I think he might be, and obviously there's dozens and dozens of serial killers that I have no idea about because they're under the radar in the sense that they haven't been as publicized as some of these, what we'll call the heavy hitters. But yeah, I think the Son of Sam is the only other guy that just kind of just used a gun, and it's like simple as that. I guess Richard Ramirez, like the Night Stalker, maybe used a gun sometimes, but I think he was more hands-on with this stuff. So it's interesting. Again, it's like one of those things where you're like, oh my God, how did he kill people? I'm like, oh, he just shot him. Okay. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's uneventful in the sense that it doesn't make good cinema. But yet again, after researching this guy, what I did some research on, it doesn't really look like this guy has any kind of motives, right? He's not very talkative. I don't know why he started killing people. He just started killing people all of a sudden in April of 2021. Which his first victim was and a lot of these take place in the wee hours of the morning, in between like 1 to 6
All
a.m.
of them do. It's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah. So
Maybe that's where the whole nothing good comes after midnight, because that's like when serial killers go hunting, I guess.
Yeah. But is interesting. And it seemed like there was no kind of rhyme or reason, or there's no profile for the victim. You know what I mean? They were a range of ages and genders, and just I think one person was a homeless person, because she talks, the one person that lived, she got shot twice and lived. She was saying that she was like coming out of her tent or something like that when the assailant got her.
I noticed that. And it made me think, like, are they all homeless, or was it just this one? Because it wasn't really clear about anyone else. So I didn't know if he was like the whole I'm going to clean the city of homeless or not, but I did notice that.
Yeah, and I'm going to make the assumption it's not the case, because if they all had that commonality, he would probably be dubbed, the homeless, slaughterer or something to do. And then like he would be like put on, he'd be put on like edge there. Like people would be calling it out like, hey, everybody, like watch your homeless or whatever. I don't know. I just didn't really see that as a clue to that. But I did notice that, like, I mean, ranged from like ages, like the youngest guy I think was 35 all the way up to the like late 50s, early 60s, and everything in between. So very interesting, but all the more reason, like, how dangerous things can be. Can you imagine just like chilling, especially in the middle of the night, like you're like walking home from the bar or something like that, and this dude comes up and blasts you in the face for no fucking reason? Like you didn't even look at him weird. Like that's like the quintessential wrong place, wrong time kind of scenario. You know what I mean? Craziness, man.
Well, and it's kind of like where technology's at. Like his body count didn't get near as high of some of the other similar type killers that kind of fit a similar MO of like random kind of killing like that. And I think a lot of that's, modern day detective work, cameras, how they collect evidence and testimony from people. They were able to track this guy down fairly quick. Considering that some of the other people get up to 30, 40, 50 people before they actually start catching these types of killers, because they're so random.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And I guess if I can use the word loosely, I guess you got to be, I guess he is somewhat skilled then to get away with multiple murders in this day and age, right? Because the mass majority of serial killers, the big reason, I would say a large variable with how they got away so long, is the lack of criminology in general, right? Like the lack of technology in DNA testing, and just increased technology with surveillance and otherwise, that's made things a lot more difficult to kind of slip between the cracks and like, kind of evade the police and the authorities for so long. So I guess that's the other thing, that when I hear about serial killers in the modern era, it is much more alarming, because you're like, how can somebody get away with this for even an extended period of time when you kill multiple people, right? And he's just right there. It's almost like maybe he was trying to qualify as a serial killer, because there needs to be, I think, 5 victims for it to be dubbed like you are. Okay, now you're a serial murderer. So he just got there, and he was apparently, which is interesting, he was on the hunt, is what they were saying, when they caught him. And they apprehended him while he was looking for somebody to kill.
Well, it's crazy, right? Because they were just like tailing this guy and following him around for like a day.
Yeah.
Just like, oh yeah, this is our guy. Look at this weirdo. He's like, he's out
hunting
right now.
He's like all black clothes and a black mask that he was wearing, like kind of around his neck or whatever, that he could pull up, which now, like the mask thing is not that odd, right? 2-3 years ago, like, what the fuck is this clown wearing a mask for? But now it's like, he's probably just like, just a little apprehensive about COVID or something like that. So you really wouldn't bat an eye from somebody walking around with a mask around their neck. I mean, people did it all the time in the grocery store in 2020. You know what I mean? So it's interesting stuff, bro. Very interesting stuff. But it looks like he's been charged now with 5 counts of murder, first-degree murder. And I don't think he's going to be wiggling out of there anytime soon. But do they have the death penalty in California anymore? I don't think
they do. No, I don't think they do.
I know they used to, and I think they might have like outlawed the electric chair pretty early on. compared to other states. But yeah, interesting stuff. But it did get me thinking. I was like, Bob, as we're here, balls deep in creepy season, and be it that what is it today? Is it the 23rd? Yeah, it's the 23rd of October. It's it's like, we haven't really kicked around a lot. It's like, when it comes to infamy, and if you have to say, who are the top serial killers out there in your perspective, where are you landing, Bob? What's your thought? Who's kind of who's on the podium?
Well, so I actually had to look up the killers, right? And then all the normal ones pop out at you, right? You see the Jeffrey Dahmer, you see the Ted Bundy, you start seeing, the serial killers that are like kind of normal. But as I was looking at these, I started looking up the body counts and started looking at these like older, less known killers. And the reason that all the stories about, like I had said earlier, don't go out after midnight, all that shit kind of happened. And two things struck me. First, there's several serial killers from California.
Yeah.
Is it just a population thing, or is California just like make weirdos? I don't know.
It could be argued. The other thing I thought was really interesting is where the amount of serial killers per capita in the United States is dramatically higher than any other country in the world. So do we just produce crazy fucking people in this country? I think so. I think there's definitely a big, what is it? I think, yeah. Well, I think UK has had like 17 serial killers, and the United States is like 2,000 whatever or something. And I was like, wow, that's a big range. And UK is like second, which makes sense. They're probably the most similar to the United States in their makeup societally and politically. You know what I mean? Versus everywhere else in the world. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. What are these other countries doing to kind of keep people from losing their shit, so to speak? I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like everything else. I think we just culture crazy. We just cultivate crazy in our country, and
we just love to be number one, baby. That's
and,
what
and it's in all forms. Like, it's crazy, everything to the extreme crazy. Like, we cultivate and grow, whether it's like the craziest politicians or the craziest serial killers or the craziest mass murders or the craziest mass shooters or whatever. I think we cultivate all of that. Because if you look, we like lead in every category, and not by a small amount. We lead by like 10 times the amount of the next person, the next country.
USA,
like,
baby.
We are the best at being dynamically the worst at everything. Like, right? It's pretty crazy concept. And so I was looking through all these killers, and I'm like, well, what's like the weirdest one? I found one.
Oh,
so I found one, and his name is Patrick Kearney. Right. So there's been 3 people that have been dubbed the freeway killer. I think they've all been in California.
Yeah.
Again, because fucking California, right? They grow serial killers there like hotcakes. It's crazy. William Bond and Randy Kraft were both named the freeway killer. Right. And I'm pretty sure one of those was what the freeway killer on Netflix or whatever was about years ago. Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right. Well, this guy was known as the trash bag killer and the freeway killer. And this guy was pretty crazy, right? I'm just gonna read this little article about him, right? And this is it's from a website called listfirst.com. Okay. It's the top 10 serial killers by Jamie Frater. Give proper credit there.
Mm-hmm.
And when she gets down to Patrick Kearney, here's what she writes, right? The proven death toll was 21. Verified. The presumptive death toll was more than 43. so he was active serial killer from 65 to 77. So this is a 10-year or 12-year span that he killed presumptively more than 43 people. So this guy's killing one every 3 months. I mean, this guy's getting in there.
Pretty healthy production for that guy.
Me. For those that are watching on YouTube, you can see him behind me. Look at this. Look at this guy.
Look at that little smirk too. He's got like that little that Ryan Gosling kind of smirk going too. You know what I mean?
Like, he's like a mixture of what's the dude's name from
Come on, let me have it, baby.
That 60 movies with the stabbing, the popular the movie at the motel.
Oh yeah, Norman Bates.
Norman Bates. Right. He's like a mixture of Norman Bates and the dude from Falling Down. That is this guy. If you combine those two in some AI, you get Patrick Kearney. Interesting thing about this guy, right? So let me read the article. Kearney joins William Bond and Randy Kraft in the dubious achievement of being nicknamed the Freeway Killer. Born in 1934, Patrick Kearney preyed on young men, the youngest of whom was 8.
Yeah,
So that's a pretty lenient age for calling them a young man. He picked up along freeways or at gay bars. Kearney was a necrophile, and he was strongly averse to inflicting pain on his victims. So when you said, like, has there been a lot of people with guns? And I didn't even snap that. Oh yeah, actually, Patrick Kearney only used guns. So he was averse to inflicting pain on his victims. Interesting, while they were alive. So interesting enough. So he developed a technique of shooting them in the temple whilst driving. So he would then drive to a secluded place to have sex with their corpses. So he would be driving and just be like, hey, yeah, nothing weird, man. And then just like pull over and shoot them right in the fucking temple and then take them off to go have sex with them. He would often beat his victims' lifeless bodies in a macabre way of getting back at the bullies who made fun of his 5'5" height during high school years. He was meticulous in his cleanup. He would mutilate and cut his victims into pieces with a hacksaw, and he would dispose of the parts along various stops of the highway and in industrial areas. He was caught when his live-in lover, David Mill, gave his address to a young man for a hookup. The young man told his family the address before departing, and upon his disappearance, the information was handed to the police. Due to a plea bargain, Kearney was spared the death penalty and is incarcerated in California, where he remains until his death to this day. So this dude was born in 1934, so he's old as fuck.
Yeah.
And still alive, but that's what he would do. Somewhere estimated more than 43 people. He would shoot them and then go rape his men and then beat them and then cut them up. And it's just so strange. Like, this guy was so fucking weird about everything, about how he did his business. And then when you look at him,
there he is.
This guy is trying to sell you a fucking vacuum cleaner.
He really does. It's the glasses too. You know what I mean? He looks like a typical Midwestern bumpkin right there.
Well, and he's 5'5". Looking at his face there, he's probably 140 pounds, maybe. You know, and the guy's walking around totally harmless. No one's gonna like look at this guy in a scary way ever. And this guy's one of the biggest predators in the U.S. history.
That's a really good pull there, Bob. And I remember actually listening to a podcast series about him from last podcast on the left. It is interesting that he shares this title with a couple other guys too. Isn't that interesting? These guys all had like kind of the same MO, you know, all this kind of like freeway. And this is back when like the freeways were first getting really popular too, you know, and it was kind of like
they just got made in what, the 40s, 50s?
Yeah, something like that.
They had just been created.
And what's interesting is some people do tie in the birth of freeways with like the birth of like modern serial killers too, because it was a way to kind of escape quickly. You know what I mean too?
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. That's a good one there. You know, when I think about it here, it's interesting. I got a couple of them here. They're all pretty well known though, in the sense that when I think about like the most infamous serial killers, like the Night Stalker does come to mind. And the one thing that is very uneasy to me about him is the guy like really didn't have a type, and he killed very elderly as well as very young. And there was no rhyme or reason there. And I think that kind of thing, when you have like a lack of a profile and you just want to do pure evil, that bothered me a lot. That seemed to really get under my skin in the sense that this guy is just ultra creepy. Now, don't get me wrong. All serial killers are ultra creepy. They're pieces of shit, but I think he took it to another level there with that. And then I think the other one that I enjoyed learning about, if I could say that, because of his toying with the police, was BTK, the guy that dubbed, for his modus operandi, bind, torture, kill. But being able to kind of like send those notes to like the local news outlet and toy with the police for a while, I thought was entertaining, to say the least, because it got pretty ballsy. Ended up being his demise as you get into modern times, because they were able to trace where it was coming from. But those couple of guys, I thought were pretty interesting in the sense that they probably I put them on the podium though. I definitely would put them on the podium. Not with body counts or anything like that, but just the process, the lack of any type of empathy for certain groups. Because the one thing, even though like, Ted Bundy, piece of shit, crazy, disgusting, had a high body count. But what was interesting about Ted Bundy is there's nobody like little kids that he would take down. They were all young women, right? But no little kids. It seems like there was still, with some serial killers, a little bit of morality and somewhat of a code of ethics with like sparing the truly innocent. Not so much with these other clowns, though. You know what I mean? That to me is really troubling when you can just like carry through your crazy shit on little kids. I think that probably takes the cake for me. What do you think?
No, 100%. Everyone wants a story. Everyone wants a reason. Everyone wants that effort, right? No one likes a lazy serial killer. No one does.
It's true. Yeah.
Hollywood doesn't like it. I mean, how many films have you seen about the Son of Sam? Like one? I mean, it's like a made for TV one too. Like it's not there. But then you look at Jeffrey Dahmer and kind of what has come from Jeffrey Dahmer. We got the whole Silence of the Lambs spinoff that originates from Jeffrey Dahmer, and type of killing. Everyone likes the incredibly macabre, right? And the more outlandish the serial killer is, the more drawn everyone is to his fucking weirdness.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to promote you serial killers out there to be more creative, but I mean a little.
It's like, so what are you gonna do? You're just gonna shoot the guy in the face? Really? That's it? Come on, give it a little effort, bro. Put some creativity into it here.
Like I cut his toe off and then I stuck a vacuum cleaner on his toe until he was bled dry. It was fun, crazy. It took hours.
That's actually pretty creative, I guess. Yeah, but you're right. It needs to be so far beyond the pale. You know what I mean? For people to really get like just consumed by it. You know what I mean? Well, and Dahmer's definitely a good example of that for sure.
I think Dexter's a good example of that. Like how popular was Dexter because of how creative he was and how weird he was, right? And meticulous and stalker. There was no like, I'm just gonna go up and shoot this guy and that's my kill for the night. No. He went to great lengths. He went on which by the way, Dexter had a very nice boat. I don't think that gets enough credit. Dexter had a great boat. It'd go into the bay and it'd get rid of all of his body parts. They were carefully curated so that he could dispose of them and they would go to the bottom and never come up again. And everybody loved Dexter to this day. Well, even the new series, it's very, very popular because of how eccentric he is about his killings.
And also, I think if we're talking about Dexter a little bit here, it's also that he was kind of like a vigilante serial killer. Like he was trying really hard to make sure that he would kill people that were quote unquote bad for society. You know?
Well, yeah, they were all fucked up kind of people. I don't recall him ever killing someone that was like just a good person in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I think he accidentally killed somebody though that he thought was bad that turned out not to be bad, and that's like what tripped him up and like fucked with his head. He definitely had a code of ethics. I mean, his father ingrained that shit in him. Good show. But yeah, again,
little sidebar to Dexter.
The dramatic setup to his kill room and everything, and the saran wrap everywhere, kind of reminds me of anal sex. Sometimes with all that saran wrap everywhere.
A little bit of Cleveland steamer. Just get the saran wrap out so it's easy cleanup. No one needs to know.
Oh my goodness. I wonder, dude. I'm thinking though too, after this Dahmer thing, I'm really looking for a reboot cinema of of what's his name? Of John Wayne Gacy. I think that deserves another whack at it too, because that guy's story. It's interesting too. I thought it was really interesting how like John Wayne Gacy and Dahmer's stories kind of overlap each other at the end. I don't know if you noticed that in the recent docupic with Evan Peters, but as he was being arrested, Dahmer, they had already got a few years earlier John Wayne Gacy in custody, and they put him to death the day that Dahmer, I think was was killed in prison by the other inmate or whatever. It was the same day that they put John Wayne Gacy to death, and they interviewed those guys and wanted feedback about what they thought about the other. And they both didn't have very nice things to say about each other, which I thought was interesting. It was almost like they were in competition. It was kind of strange, but just a little sidebar.
Weird. And probably reflection too, because they both had time to find out about each other while they were incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
Very
interesting stuff.
You don't really know.
Let me ask you this, Bob. I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball on my horror movies. I did watch, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I did watch the new Halloween that everybody's just raving about. And I say that sarcastically because I've heard a lot of horror stories, no pun intended, about this latest Halloween. But it looks like it's the last one. It looks like it's Jamie Lee Curtis's last film with, the franchise as well. You haven't seen this, have you?
So last night I put it on. It was really late. I was pretty tired. I lasted about 10 minutes. And so I have to put it on again tonight to finish it off. So no, I haven't seen much of it. Just the very beginning, which doesn't have much in it. So
okay. Well, spoiler alert.
I did try.
Spoiler alert, just so everybody knows. I think they thought too much about it. I think they tried too hard. Can we say that this last movie was made by some tryhards in the horror department?
Of course you can.
Yes, absolutely. Now, which pains me because Danny McBride, the comedian, also has his hand in making horror films, and he's like the producer and partly wrote the story and all that stuff. But they just tried too hard. What they did is they tried to give somebody else like the main antagonist role, and they tried to like almost have him like Michael Myers' pupil or something like that. It was just unnecessary. Like the movie finally got entertaining near the end, but they could have just stayed the course. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is the game script here for Halloween. They've had like 25 of these movies done successfully with this game script. Just stay the course, dude. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's what they did. And I do understand the criticism. I think it was a pretty big swing and a miss in that respect, but I still watched it. I still thought it was reasonably entertaining. Definitely not one to miss out on if you are a fan of the franchise, which I am for sure.
Yeah, of course. And I'll watch it. Even if it sucks, I'll watch it.
Dude, if it sucks really bad, I want to watch it even more because I love a bad horror movie too. That's just as good as a good horror movie, if you ask me. It's right there. It's neck and neck. You know what I mean?
Well, for one thing, little sidebar. For Danny McBride fans, we are now in the final maybe 6 months before season 3 of Righteous Gemstones comes out. So we'll be counting down the days for that gem.
That fucking show is just incredible, dude. Like it's outrageously like ridiculous good. You know what I mean? Like the kind of shit that you're like, well, this is not reality based at all. Then I have to remind myself when I say that, like, it's a show. It's a show. Like, of course, it's not totally reality based, but yeah, but isn't it? Exactly. That's a real good one. But it got me thinking when I was like watching Halloween last night. I was like, dude, I'm behind the 8 ball with my Halloween movies, man. I'm usually like right on top of it. I think it's because of the week I took off and the trip I took at the beginning of the month, but I haven't watched but the new Hellraiser. That's it. I haven't watched any of the old Hellraiser movies. I haven't watched any of the old. I thought it was good. I've heard mixed reviews about that. I thought it was pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to watch that one.
It's up on Plex. It's on Hulu. It's on Hulu too.
We've been getting down a little bit. We've been dabbling. As you saw last night, we were watching Final Destination 2. And that's because we've seen one a few times in a row now because it's really good. But we did watch Final Destination 2 to try to get in there. We watched Interview with the Vampire the other day. Jessica had never seen it.
What? Wait, what?
I don't know.
I'm calling bullshit.
But she thought it was really good. I was like, how do you not see it? I know almost every scene of that movie. And I was like, but you like Queen of the Damned. I was like, just so you know, the main protagonist in Queen of the Damned is Lestat. that is the same guy. Yeah, different actor, but same guy, same timeline, same everything. Like that is
weird. Who hasn't seen Interview with the Vampire? That's just strange. I don't know if I feel the same way about Jess now that I used to. You know what I mean?
Well,
she's
not
a little
Jess
sus
anymore.
Yeah,
not now. She saw it, but I've been on a vampire kick lately. So we've got Marshall Ali playing Blade coming out next summer.
I
We'd
can't
already
wait.
talked about that, right? So so that's going to be awesome. And then I got to think about the old Blade. The old Blade is kind of how I think of the new day shift movie that came out.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
the
much
one with
similar, right? It's
with
more
Jamie
action
Foxx.
based. It's more
Yes.
action based. Let's go like hunt some and shoot some vampires. Let's give you some action sequences. And actually, I started thinking Dust Till Dawn, similar. It is similar to that. I mean, yes, Dust Till Dawn. I'm sorry, but you have like a mid-20s. Why can I never remember names anymore?
I don't know.
I can't remember her name. So anyway,
Don't worry about it. We got this. It was her first movie, I think, too. Salma Hayek.
Salma Hayek, thank you. Like a mid-20s Salma Hayek in Dust Till Dawn. Like, come on, pal. Just for that scene alone, like the movie is worth. I don't even really care what happens the rest of the movie.
Where she's drinking, or where Quentin Tarantino's like drinking the tequila off her toe that she's like pouring down like herself.
George Clooney not convincing as a badass. I don't care how many neck tattoos you get. You're not a badass, Doc. It's not gonna happen. So the overall movie is good, but it's definitely not because George Clooney was in it. That movie would have been great and probably even better without him. So
my favorite scene, and I think it's 2 times in the movie is when Cheech Marin is outside, like, come on in, we've got slimy pussy, we got stinky pussy, we got fat pussy, we got little pussy, we got big pussy. It just keeps going. I'm like, yes, go Cheech. I love it, dude. Yeah, but I don't think that movie was worth 2 more sequels. You know what I mean? I think they should have probably just stopped it at 1 and done is fine. But
yeah, so I'm thinking about like, what is my favorite, vampire movie?
See, that's a real hard one because, like you just said, I think you have to break them up in categories because there's so many of them. I'll tell you which one it's not, and that's the Twilight bullshit. Okay, there's no reason to have like no negative side of being a vampire that destroys the allure of the vampire. So when they go out in the sunlight, their skin gets sparkly. Fuck off with that horse shit. That movie's just out. But
yeah, I agree.
For the action packed, like an action movie, vampire movie, we already mentioned it. It's Blade. It's Blade all day. That's definitely the one that takes the cake. Now, in that same vein, though, like, have you seen John Carpenter's Vampires from 1996 or 7, I believe, with James Woods?
Yes, of course.
That's a really good one right there.
That is a good one. And I think for me, like the classic vampire movie to like really sit down and devote 3 hours to, it's got to be Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay,
I mean,
Gary Oldman.
It's a classic. Yeah. It's got everything you need in it. It's really classic. But for like just like my personal flavor, I know it's cheesy, dude, but I really like have a raging hard on for the Lost Boys, and not just for Saxophone Guy, like for the whole movie.
What's funny is Saxophone Guy, that's what he does in real life, like to this day too. Like there's people like taking pictures with this guy or whatever. He's a little bit thinner now. He's not as beefy or oily as he was in that scene, but I agree with you. I have to say, and I think that's something. Is it part nostalgia? Yes, it is. Absolutely. It comes from the golden era of cinema for somebody like you and I when we were young kids. But it's very well done. Very well done, man. Like I don't know, everything about that movie is pretty key. Notably too, I mean, is Kiefer Sutherland, could he be any more of a badass?
Well, and that's the hard part, Scott. How do you remake cinema magic like this? Because it's very hard to remake this film because of how good Kiefer Sutherland was. I mean, it might be his best role.
Oh yeah,
he nailed that part, I think, harder than he nailed any other part in his fucking career.
Yeah,
he nailed that fucking vampire. It was epic.
Yeah, no, it's true. I agree. I would say that's probably my favorite for just enjoyable viewing that will never get old. You know what I mean? If it's on when I'm flipping through channels, we're staying there. We've just derailed the current plans that were happening before then. even if it's like a football game I'm about to watch, I'm probably still going to finish that scene, especially when the guy's like death from stereo. Remember when he gets shot with like a bow and arrow and like goes into the stereo or whatever?
Of
It's
course.
fantastic. It's fantastic, bro. I agree. That's probably my favorite, hands down. Now, with that being said, you had mentioned it. If I'm looking for like a dramatic kind of like serious vampire movie, it's definitely Interview with the Vampire for me.
That's a good one.
I that's another one too that I watch every season, every spooky season. I haven't done it yet, but I usually do that one a little bit closer to Halloween because it's near and dear to my heart. Outside of that though, the one you mentioned I thought was super entertaining, the new one with Jamie Foxx. If you haven't seen that yet, give it a watch, dude, because what's interesting about that one is the vampire hunters, they're in the business of selling the vampire teeth for big money. Like apparently that's a thing. They're like trophies that people are willing to pay lots of money for. And it's like in this kind of parallel universe where like, vampires are a thing, you know what I mean? But not everybody knows about them and their teeth go for really big money. It's pretty interesting. It's a good little story. But another one that I can think of here that I thought was really, really good. Have you seen the original Fright Night from like the mid 80s? Have you seen that one?
Yeah, of course. No, I haven't.
That's another good one too. The guy, dude, I don't even know the actor's
No,
name, but
I also want to say, sorry to interrupt. It's on a HBO Max too for anyone out there wanting to watch it.
Fright Night, the original,
Mhm.
nice. Now, you remember who plays the vampire? I don't know his name, but you know this because we used to watch this religiously at our first apartment. But he's the preacher in Bordello of Blood. Remember that guy? That's the actor that plays like the vampire. I don't know what else he's done besides those couple of movies, to be honest. And it's kind of a skid to go from like a B horror movie in the 80s to, Bordello of Blood in 1994. But that's another one of my favorites too. It's just got a nice creepy element. Now, something we haven't even touched on yet is there's comedic vampire movies. I think most notably, My Best Friend's a Vampire from the 80s and also Once Bitten with Jim Carrey.
There is Once Bitten, and also I don't even know, but like vampires in Brooklyn. It's
Dude, classic Eddie Murphy right there, bro.
yeah, it's kind of comedic.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's comedic. It's got the dad from Friday in it that plays like his neighbor.
Right.
And then who's the guy that plays like his servant? I can't remember. Yeah, that's a pretty good one though. But yeah, I would say I'm usually a huge fan of vampire movies.
So there's a new one, and you had watched it recently too, because I thought you had mentioned this to me on the phone. Midnight Mass. You guys were watching that?
Oh yeah, it's a good show.
How was that?
That was a good show, dude. It was interesting, dude. It was like this. It's like this island off the coast of like New York or somewhere. I think it's New York. It's like a little island community, and there's a preacher that travels to like the Holy Land and goes to the Middle East or whatever, and he encounters a vampire there, and he brings him back to this community. The vampire is pretty fucking impressive in the sense that he's not like a humanoid really much at all. This guy's more like a different type of creature, and his bite is similar to giving people like a viral infection, and that's what causes the vampirism or what have you. And he pretty much like is on the process of the movie is like this vampire has like some helpers, including that preacher, and it's basically having people go to church to become vampires. He like starts like changing everybody into vampires. It's pretty interesting. Obviously his plans get foiled. But it's pretty damn good.
As per usual, stupid
right.
Vampire hunters.
It's a little slow moving though, and I just have to call this out as like my criticism for this guy that does it. He does some good stuff. He's done like the Haunting at Hill House shit. You know what I mean? The guy that wrote all this shit. He really likes to get people on their soapboxes and monologue like a little too much, and it makes some of these scenes drag on a bit. But if you can get past those and just kind of bite your lip and get through those slower parts, it's quite entertaining.
Well, I was curious about that because vampire movies to me have always been like my favorite. There's just something seductive and sexy about the vampire life, right? And I don't know if it's a euphemism for just kind of the rock star life, the party life of like I sleep all day and fucking stay up all night and fucking devour the week, devour the whatever. And maybe it's just something that subconsciously connects or something, but I've always just really been seduced by the vampire movies as my favorite sort of horror genre out of all of it. The vampire movies to me, and it's really hard to find a vampire movie because they really stopped chasing after it. The vampire movie, meaning they is Hollywood. Like there hasn't been a lot of vampire movement. There hasn't been a huge vampire and that kind of like dark gothic scene in general for a long time now. And it feels like either everyone's kind of repressing that and not letting people know that they're like into the goth, weird, dark, control, sexy vampire thing, or that it really is dying and I'm holding on to something from the past.
I think it comes in spurts. I think it's okay. I think what happened too is I think literally um in the early 90s you had Bram Stoker, with a great cast with Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, everybody. Then you had a couple years later you had Interview with the Vampire that just fucking killed it. I mean, everybody in that movie just fucking killed it. And then there was a huge spike of interest again throughout the 90s and the early 2000s. And I mean, literally the Twilight movies, even though I clown them forever, it was like that was the tail end of like that spike that was created in the early 90s. And you had a similar thing in the 70s too. In the 70s, you had a spike, you had a remake of Dracula, you had a remake of this, blah, blah, blah. It was like Nosferatu in 1929 spiked it, during that area. It has these little spikes, it has these ebbs and flows, so to speak. But yeah, I think we're on the downhill right now. I think people are just kind of, fed up.
In my interpretation, I think that Twilight
sucked.
Fucking well, no, I think that it killed the vampire scene. It made it not sexy. It made it kid-like. Right? Whereas now people are reluctant to dig into like vampire life and express like themselves artistically in the vampire way because of the kid-like portrayal that went on for a decade because of Twilight.
Well,
I really think that influenced negatively the lifestyle and just the genre of vampirism. And I think that there's going to be a film that's going to come out that's going to be gritty and powerful, and it's going to suck people back in, and it's going to bring it back. And I can't wait for it.
Well, I think you're right. I think we're about time with that. The other thing that I think kind of at least kind of diverted the interest is when you had like the Twilight movies, you had a huge surge of zombie related cinema, and zombies.
That's true. Walking Dead came out around then.
Yeah, Walking Dead started. This is like late 2000s, right? Well, and that's when everything surged there. And Jesus Christ, there's been some great ones too. Zombieland, that's Zombieland 1 and 2. They're both hilarious and they're both good. There's at one point I was like, God damn, are they gonna like keep doing zombie shit? But what's interesting about zombie shit? When there's a zombie movie, I'm in. I'm drawn in, dude. You know what I mean? I like that story and how that happens and how people turn into these mindless creatures. And I think a lot of I think you can draw parallels with like the fright and the anxiety feel from like the pandemic with how zombie apocalypses happen, because it's usually a viral infection that spreads from person to person when they're bit, so I think there's a lot there on why that got so popular and kind of remains popular. But
I also think, Scott, that zombie and the whole zombie infestation ties into just the social collapse in general, and I think that's a fear on everyone's mind in general. And I think that kind of feeds into the lore of a pandemic or zombie type anything that collapses society to where bands of people just come and rob and steal and rape and kill and do that, and anarchy starts existing. I think that kind of draws people out as they can parallel that as realistic fears.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
That's very much a realistic fear, whether it's zombies or not. Law and order and government collapsing, and then people that have the power and the guns and the fuel and the energy and everything consuming power and just decimating the rest of us is a natural fear that all of us fucking consider, at least.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of, we're almost at time here, but I think I'll end with my thought here. Something that I don't even know if I've shared with you. I've become quite the fan of South Korean cinema lately. It's what's being recommended to me all the time on Netflix now, which is cool. They have some kind of partnership with like South Korean like art right now, meaning film. I've watched 2 different now full series of zombie apocalypse South Korean shows. And I'm about to start a 3rd one here. I'm hooked, bro. I don't know if I have a problem or whatnot, but love it. I love the subtitles. Squid Games was definitely the other one that I watched that I know almost everybody else did. But really get into their stuff, and they seem to be a few years behind us. What's super popular, but right now they're zombie right now. So check it.
Well, just so you know, Netflix did open up 2 studios in South Korea, so that makes sense.
That's good shit, man. South Korean cinema.
They're invested in South Korea as much as everyone else is.
Yeah.
And did it start with
Squid Game?
Squid Game, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's what started the other recommendations on Netflix. I was like, then I went down the rabbit hole, started watching a couple more.
Quick question, because I got to get it out there.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't like watching English dubbed films. I like watching them act in their native language and then reading the translation, because then I get the powerful emotions and everything that they have while they're giving the lines and how they're doing it, versus the dub over who's disconnected from the film most of the time, and it's terrible. So, like, for instance, with Squid Game, about an episode in, I was like, nope, fuck that. I'll just read this shit because it's off. The dubbing isn't matching the acting, and the acting is fucking top notch and powerful. Right. Yep. So once I did that, it changed the film for me. It was 100%. So much better watching these South Korean actors like really like perfect their craft and deliver these great performances. Same for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, right? I watched that and I watched the English dub and I was just like, oh, that's cool. But then I rewatched it with the Chinese subtitles and everything in Chinese. It was so much fucking better. It's like a whole different movie.
Yeah, I can't do the dub. I can't do the dub either, man. I don't like it.
We are no dubs at the Stiff Truth.
No dubs, man. No dubs necessary. It kills everything. It kills everything, dude. And honestly, if you can't read, I understand. That's a handicap you're probably going to want to get over outside of watching films. So, but I appreciate just like reading it. And to be honest with you, it forces you to pay more attention to the movie, because sometimes I'll get sidetracked and I'll like start doing other things. I'll be looking on my phone or something like that. Not when I'm watching a South Korean show. I'm tuned in, bro, because I want to make sure I don't skip a beat.
Let me say this. It also forces you to watch it several times. Because after you like start reading it and you know really what they're saying in each scene, you can just glance at the reading and then pay more attention to the actors, and it gets better and better and better. That, at least that's how it was for me.
It also helps you pick up like other words and other languages pretty quickly too, because you start seeing like some themes and you're like, yeah, I've heard that one before. That means that. Yeah, I'll remember that now. So it's interesting. Like I imagine there's a lot of validity in that. Like I know some people like, oh yeah, I learned how to to speak Spanish by just watching Spanish soap operas while I was sitting in jail, shit like that. I'm like, how does that work? You know what I mean? But I guess if you just like, if that's all you're kind of just just faced with or whatever, it starts to happen. So it might be your first step to learning a foreign language, Bob. So that's exciting, right?
maybe I have to get me some babble.
There you go. But I tell you what, Bob, we are about out of time, my friend. I know this is always the hardest part of the show.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, it was nice taking a break from the news. Even though we specifically mentioned a serial killer in the news, it was nice taking a break from like geopolitical news and national politics and everything, and really digging into more the horror theme. Are we going to be able to do a show next week? Are we good for next week?
I think we are, buddy, because like Sunday is the day before Halloween. I have Halloween off Monday. There's no reason why we can't do a show. I think we do a show. I think we owe it to the Stiffies out there to give a nice Halloween edition of the Stiff Truth.
So there you have it. We will definitely have one more show where we will probably talk about spooks and goblins and what have you. We'll find something spooky to talk about. We haven't had our meeting about that one yet, but it's been a real pleasure. I always kind of love like going over our tops and our lists and our stuff.
It's a throwback, baby.
Yeah, these are the fun shows. So anyway, thanks for joining us today. Like and subscribe, tell your friends. We love to have you. Thank you for spending your time with us. And that's it. Again, thanks. We'll see you next week.
2 and 2, we're out.
See ya.